Hey, what's up guys, it's ElasticSpyder here, and in today's video, we have a community replay. In this community replay, we are featuring B-Ray71 in the Tier 7 PanAsian destroyer, the Gadjah Mada. Now the Gadjah Mada is really one of the first PanAsian destroyers that a lot of people actually really like. A lot of people like the Tier 4, and Tier 5 and 6 I've seen a lot of people skip or have somewhat mixed feelings about those, but Tier 7 is, I would say, pretty unanimously, gosh, can't speak, it is unanimously one of people's favorite PanAsian destroyers in the line. Of course, the 8, 9, and 10, they are also quite favorites because they are pretty much U.S. destroyers at Tier 8, 9, and 10. They do have some peculiarities. Again, can't speak today, but the Gadjah Mada is still one of those ships that it's a good torp boat, but it's also a decent gunboat in the right situations. So, my personal thoughts on the Gadjah Mada is that I actually think I do better in the Tier 6, the function, as I like to call it. I think it's, I don't know, I actually kind of like it better. I don't know why in every aspect, nearly every aspect, it's actually worse than the Gadjah Mada, but that's besides the point. The Gadjah Mada is one of those ships that, like I was saying earlier, is a very good torpedo boat. Obviously, it does have quintuple launchers, so you can cover an area quite well, and since you do get 2 quintuple torpedo launchers, you can really delete things very quickly, especially lower tier battleships that don't quite understand deep water torpedoes and what the consequences of not maneuvering are. And that's one of those things that you know, hopefully people will learn, but by now I believe it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since the PanAsian destroyers have been introduced into the game. I think people should know by now that these PanAsian destroyers do have these funky torpedoes with a bit of a quirk. Although you have to keep in mind that they do have quite a long cooldown. We're seeing here we're about 2/3 of the way almost done, and we're sitting at about a minute 20 seconds to reload. So I believe it's over 100 seconds. I think it's like 106 seconds, I want to say, for the full torpedo reload. So that's well over 2 minutes, but either way, or just about 2 minutes, sorry. But either way, it is oh, we see there 2 minutes right on the dot. They are good torpedoes, though. They hit pretty hard. I believe they go 61 knots. Can I see this? No, I can't. Darn replays. I wish the replay system was a little bit better, but I digress. So I believe they do 61 knots. They are somewhat good in terms of damage. I want to say 16,000. 16,000 rings a bell in my head, but they are good torpedoes, and since they are deep water, they do have a very nice stealthiness. And at the end of the day, torpedoes aren't necessarily all that important about damage. It's just a matter of if you get flooding. I think one of the most overlooked aspects of torpedoes is their flooding chance, and the only way you get a flooding chance is by hitting more torpedoes, basically. Of course, certain nations like PanAsian, since they do ride lower in the water, they do have a higher flood chance, but so that is also good for causing a lot of flood damage. And I think that's kind of where the Gadjah Mada and PanAsian destroyers in general succeed quite well. They are able to get a lot of floodings, and therefore they can be very good area denial ships, and they're not necessarily cap contesters, but for enemy fleets to push up and doing things like this. Like you see, these guys are outside of the cap. They're kind of supporting them, kind of not. But the Gadjah Mada on the flank, he is forcing the battleship, the cruiser Königsberg is forcing them to kind of turn into the cap, and they are sailing out, so they are kind of forced to turn in. And here's where the aerial denial is very nice. You can just line up these torpedoes, and they are quite fast. They are very, very hard to detect, even by air. So by the time these torpedoes are closing in on their target and about to hit, and by the time they're spotted, most of the time there's nothing you can do about it. And going along with the higher flood chance, now we see there, that was a very nice torpedo salvo. Looks like we're going to get one on the Cleveland for sure, and then 2 or 3 on the Julio Cesar. It's looking like 3 right now. He just started turning, and yes, 30k. He broke his engine, and 2 floodings with that as well. So one of the things that I would actually say right here, actually maybe not, if there was another ship spotting like that Königsberg, you could actually smoke up here and start centering a lot of fires. And I think B-Ray would want to, but I think he's a little worried about that Cleveland. Even though the Cleveland's guns are facing out, I think he's still worried about that, because at 9 kilometers, Cleveland HE against destroyers is quite nasty. So I think if that Cleveland had turned left right in front of that island and went that way, I think he would have opened up on this Julio Cesar. But that's something else that these PanAsian destroyers have that is very nice, and some other nations don't. They have a lot of smoke charges, and while they only last for, I believe, around a minute, 67 seconds I want to say, they last around a minute, and so they're very short duration, but you get a lot of the charges. So this allows you to dump your torpedoes, and then once you know you get, since you do have a higher flood chance, and you know that you're going to get these floods most of the time, you are able to then pop your smoke and set a few fires, shoot for a good 30 seconds, even 45 seconds if you so desire. Even you can push it to a minute, because you do have a long bloom time, or a long laying time, I'll say. So you could probably sit for a good 45 seconds, and even push into a minute, and just constantly rain down hell on battleships, cruisers, whatever it is, whatever you set floods on. I would assume those are the generic targets you're going to be going after with these deep water torpedoes. But the nice thing about that is, if you're in a U.S. destroyer, you're wasting, or you could be potentially wasting, a minute time span, 2 minute, nearly 2 minute time span, if you're on some of the higher tier American destroyers. So whereas something like the PanAsian destroyers, they can go ahead and spare a smoke or two to do things like that for somewhat low health targets that are on, 12 to 20k damage. Of course, it depends on the tier, but here we anticipate that Cleveland coming through the gap. Cleveland is completely oblivious, and we're going to get some nice torpedoes off on him. And by the time he realizes, it doesn't even look like he does realize, he's already dead. So a nice anticipating there. And it looks like we will actually get 2 more hits on the Julio Cesar. He's left with 2500 HP, and he is healing. But of course, he can only heal so much flood damage back, though. Since he does repair, shells couldn't make it over. But I'm sure we will see that Julio Cesar again, or maybe we won't. Excuse me. So here, B-Ray sees this Akatsuki, and now he's going in for the kill. I think what he's going to try and do here is turn left and then have his guns facing right, so that when the Akatsuki, hopefully when he comes out, he'll either turn towards the Nelson or turn towards him. And that way you can get that like kind of crossfire, but The Nelson might be behind the island by the time this Akatsuki gets spotted. But the other thing you have to worry about, though, is that Julio Cesar, you see him coming through the sector D8, D9. Turning this way does expose you to him shooting at you for a brief moment of time. Akatsuki gets spotted, and we can just see the nice HE go to work. Excuse me. Since we do have 120 mils, they do pen destroyers very nicely. They're not like something like the Akizuki with the 100 mils that you will actually need IFHE to pen most destroyers. I feel like I've got something stuck. Oof. May have something stuck in my throat, don't know, but insert all the "oh, you've got dick in your mouth" comments, but either way, onward with the replay. The Gadjah Mada actually has not too bad, very nice forward gun firing angles. You can get something like, I believe, 15 to 20 degrees on your forward firing turrets. Oh boy, something is not like in my throat right now. But you do get these nice turret angles. Of course, in the rear, it's not as good. You can only fire basically your rear turret straight back, but your number 2 turret, you can actually get some decent angles, probably when firing over the shoulder, around 25 to 30 degrees. Pretty standard. Your number 1 turret, though, is quite awful. You're going to need about 40-ish degrees, and that's something I believe the Fusion also has to deal with as well. So if you've played that ship, then you kind of know it with this ship, but this ship is a little bit worse at that. So that is something also to keep in mind. You can have gun down destroyers very easily at these very steep angles, and I think it would be particularly good against things like German destroyers, like that like to shoot AP. And German destroyers are actually quite good. Quite good at taking out destroyers using their AP, because for some reason it's just good. I don't know why. You just get nasty pens, especially on US destroyers. And while these aren't, the Gadjah Mada isn't a US destroyer, I believe it's British design, you still can get those very nice pens. But this isn't about German destroyers, it's more about the Gadjah Mada. So we're going to smoke up here, mainly because Podvoisky, we want to shoot him, but he goes undetected. And actually, Gneisenau is our main threat right now. We got to help our Nelson, even though Nelson does get a super heal, quote unquote. You still need it. You still need some help, especially when he is fighting 2, even 3 people at a time. So, one thing that is somewhat poo, I guess, about the Gadjah Mada is the torpedo range. It is only, it looks like 6. I want to say 8. I'm pretty sure on my Gadjah Mada, when you get it fully upgraded, it does go up to 8.5. But it looks like B-Ray is using, 8-kilometer torpedoes. You can correct me down below if you think I'm incorrect, but if you could get 9.2-kilometer torpedoes, if you could get 9.2-kilometer torpedoes, something like the Benson could, and And I believe the Mahan as well does get an option to slot 9.2 kilometer torpedoes. You could be very, very competitive at these longer ranges, but honestly I do think that would be a tad bit overpowered, having 9.2 kilometer range torpedoes and having them be deep water and at tier 7 when you can face tier 6 ships and even some tier 5s. We're gonna open up on the Podvoisky to try and kill him real quick. He's playing with his rudder, and also with these 120 mil guns, they are quite lofty arcs, as you're seeing here. So it is kind of hard to hit these smaller-ish destroyers at even 8.5, 9 kilometers, like we're doing there. So, especially Russian destroyers. Russian destroyers always are very notorious for being hard to hit destroyers. I don't know for what reason, but probably because they're fast. And even though they're not as maneuverable as something like US destroyers or IJN destroyers, they I think their raw speed throws people off quite a bit. So we get some nice torpedo on the Colorado. It looks like one of them just nearly missed, but all we wanted to do was get that Colorado out, because at this point we are on a solo warrior, and with a Podvoisky 5 kilometers away, well, it only took one salvo. You can see there that just the alpha strike of this ship is just insane. It's one of those ships that is very powerful at burst damage, so to say, where you shoot your whole salvo and then you can smoke up because the other guy wants to return fire, and then you just nail him again. By the time 10-15 seconds have passed, he's already at a quarter, a third, of his health. So something to keep in mind. Of course, the Blishka that has one extra gun does have a slightly better alpha strike, so to say, but again, it just RNG can, impact that in so many different ways. Okay, again, apologize for that. Don't know what's in my throat, but it is causing me a lot of trouble. I wish I had a drink right here. Just a glass of water would be wonderful. Of course, you guys won't hear any of the coughing. At least I hope not. I'll try and edit out all of that, because I know you guys don't want to hear me coughing. But Miyoko is coming in. Colorado is sailing away. He doesn't not want any part of us. So he's sailing away. He's gone. Miyoko is, well, taking the torpedo, and by the time he realizes the second one, well, he's dead, and that's a death strike. We also managed to get a high caliber and a Confederate before that. So, very nice play now. I don't know if you guys caught that, but the Gadjah, before he turned in here, if you look on the minimap, he was turning out here. But he decided to turn back and in like that, and that pretty much cost them, I think, the game. Although there is only 45 seconds left, had the Gadjah at least gotten on cap to stop the points, we would still be at around 860-ish points. And that's, well, it might have been enough, it might not have, but with only 25 seconds left, it'd be rather close. So it's going to go down as a solo warrior, and just going to speed this up here, and then we'll take a look at the post-battle results. Alright guys, so looking at the post-battle results, a very nice solo warrior. to B-Ray. Congratulations. I don't know if that was your first or not, but I'm certainly still looking for mine, so I'm a bit jealous of you. 167,000 damage to round off that solo warrior. 16,000 XP, 417,000 credits, 5.4k free XP, which is nice. Confederate Dev Strike, Solo Warrior, and High Caliber. 12 torpedo hits, so we did a lot more torpedoing than I guess gunning, but with 4 kills, I think that's a pretty respectable Solo Warrior. Was very close to the Kraken. Maybe we could have gotten that Gadjah Mada at the end, but probably didn't want to risk it. A solo base cap and assisted base cap as well to finish off the game. The game went on for the full 20 minutes, and in that 20 minutes we managed to rack up 2,722 base XP, which was very, very nice. And of course, we beat our next teammate by around 1,200, which is of course very, very impressive. Carrying the team on your back, if you so wish to use that saying. Detailed report: 114,000 from torpedoes. Main battery, only 26,000. Fires and floodings, 25,000. I think most of your damage will be from, I'd probably say about 75% would be from torpedoes, and about the other 25, maybe even 30% would be from your guns and of course fires and flooding. Of course your mileage can vary with that, but as a general rule, I think most of your damage will be done with torpedoes / flooding. So didn't really receive much damage. We didn't get focused all that much. So you can see there 500,000 potential damage. We utilized our smoke very well. We used our concealment and our just sneakiness around the battlefield, keeping our position somewhat concealed and not telling the enemy where we are by firing unnecessary torpedoes. All of our torpedoes were calculated, so very nice play there, and nearly 100 kilometers traveled. Not too bad. Credits received 300 grand. Not bad. If you don't have premium, 163,000 for tier 7. It's not too bad overall. Of course, the consumables do pose quite hefty repairable. I would say if you're not running premium, then probably getting that extra smoke and at least getting that damage control party. I think those are the two main big ones. The speed boost doesn't matter all that much. But we did get 46,000 commander XP and 12,000, there's 16,000 total, just regular XP. So a very nice game overall, and I hope you guys enjoyed this replay. Again, please send all your replays to BIAworldofwarships@gmail.com.